Hello everyone, and welcome to my owner review for my 2015 Kawasaki Ninja 250 SL. So the 250 SL essentially was the successor to the Ninja 250R. So there's actually quite a few design changes between the 250R and the 250 SL. As far as I'm aware, for most of the build life for the 250R, it was carbureted, but with the 250 SL, it only comes with fuel injection. So it's a bit like the 250R. It has that 250, well, just less than 250cc engine, but on the SL it's a single cylinder engine, and on the 250R, as far as I'm aware, I think it was a twin cylinder engine. So as you can see, just looking around the 250 SL, Kawasaki did a fantastic job on the styling for this motorcycle. It looks really sharp. It looks as good really as any of the larger CC race bikes that you're going to find. It looks a lot better, I think, than the 250R. They really put a lot of thought into the design. The only thing that I probably don't like is maybe the exhaust. In recent years, Kawasaki have been designing these sort of weird shape exhausts. Maybe this one, it's not as bad as on the newer motorcycles, but still, it's not they're not the best looking exhaust. So they're easily swapped out for an aftermarket exhaust as well, and they also make the engine sound a lot better. So this motorcycle got a 5 out of 5 rating from Motorcycle News. So it's actually quite rare that they give a motorcycle a 5 out of 5. It's not easy getting a 5 out of 5 for a motorcycle. So having owned this motorcycle for just over a year, do I think it's a 5 out of 5? I don't think it is, myself personally. I think it is a fantastic motorcycle. If you're looking for 250cc racer, this is the bike for you. But should you really buy this motorcycle? I don't know. I wouldn't be recommending this motorcycle to really to anybody, unless you really are specifically looking for a 250cc motorcycle. So let's just take a look around it. So they've gone with it's a steel diamond trellis frame. The fairings are all super tight. You know, there's no loose fairings, they're all super tight. It's really fitted in nice and snug. It just creates a really nice shape. I've taken off all the fairings on this motorcycle. It's not too bad to take them all off. Possibly an hour's worth of work. With the fairings off, this motorcycle looks amazing. If somebody wanted to customize a motorcycle, I really think this would be a great basis for it. They did a really nice job with the fender. So we have this little extension here which sticks out. When you're taking photographs of the bike or when you're looking at the bike, you don't really see this part here, the number plate, the indicators and the brake light. Well, the brake light's here, sorry. I think it's just a little red reflector. And you don't see this, you only see the tail. So they did a great job on that. But it is ugly when you look at it, when you do actually see it. It's chain driven. It's got a single disc brake at the rear, does a good enough job, and it's got a single brake disc caliper at the front. Both calipers have 2 pistons. As far as I'm aware, yeah, it's dual piston on the calipers. The brakes do the job. It's not the fastest bike, it hasn't got the most acceleration, so they do a sufficient job. The wheels look nice. The wing mirrors are pretty handy because they fold in, so I can fold in the wing mirrors. It's easy for getting the bike in and out of tight spaces or storing it in the shed. So yeah, it really looks great. So it really looks the part. It has the clip-on bars here as well. It hasn't got, like some of its competitors, they actually have risers. So it's not a proper racing position. It doesn't look like a proper racing bike, a lot of the competitors. But this 250 SL with the clip-ons, it really looks the part. We have a digital instrument cluster here. Okay, so we have a rev meter at the top. We have a fuel gauge on the left hand side. We have a clock. We have an odometer. We have a digital speedometer here. And then we have a number of little light indicators here on the left and right hand side. As you can see, this motorcycle has ABS. I don't know if it's standard with 250 SL, but some of the bikes definitely you can get it with ABS. So let's take a look at the front. It came with a clear screen. I bought an aftermarket black screen from China. It fitted perfectly and it looks much better than the clear screen on this particular bike anyway. The suspension is brilliant on this bike. I really like it. The gearbox is fantastic. The clutch is brilliant. It's super light. The bike itself only weighs 150 kg, so it's really light. It's so easy to maneuver. It's totally flickable out on the road. It really is a perfect little 250 race bike. The indicators stick out quite a bit and they're a real pain in the ass, and the handlebars, I suppose. The two of them together mean that they kind of catch in everything when you're in tight spaces. The main reason I bought this motorcycle is because I have a really tight entrance at the side of my house, and the only bike I could fit down the side of the house turned out to be a Ninja 250 SL. So it's super light, it's super small. If you're living in a city, town, or anywhere else for that matter that has, you only have a tight space to get your motorcycle in and out. Unfortunately, for some of us, Ninja 250 SL is the only bike that we can consider. So it is a super thin profile, apart from those stupid indicators, and they're not easy to replace them with other types of indicators. I haven't really looked into it too much, but the way they're built in, integrated into the fairings, they're not, you can't just replace them with any old stubby indicators because of the design of the stalk. So the gearbox is, as I said, really good. It has plenty of power, it has plenty of acceleration. It's going to do all the real speeds that you want to kind of do in the real world. Unless you really want to go into, take it out on a racetrack and do speeds in excess of 150, 160 kilometers an hour. This motorcycle really has enough of it is digitally limited, the engine on this motorcycle, and on this one, even before the red line, it is limited. So it's probably limited at probably 1,000 or 2,000 RPM before the red line. Again, that's probably just to protect the engine even further. And even at that, I can get it up to 140 kilometers an hour. This motorcycle feels perfectly at home out on the open road. On a motorway, it feels perfectly fine as well. It'll do 120 kilometers an hour, no problem. Feels totally comfortable in the range it really feels comfortable is between 80 and 120 kilometers an hour. It'll feel fine up to 130 kilometers an hour. After 130, you can feel that the engine is probably it's under a little bit more stress. You're revving it up near the max, getting close to the limiter, and by 140 kilometers an hour you have reached the limiter. The limiter is different to the red line. You can get the limiter removed, I'm sure, in a specialist motorcycle shop, and they just remap it, and you can go the whole way up through the red line if you wanted. I'm sure this probably does 160 kilometers an hour easily, and then there's other modifications you can make to make the motorcycle go faster. One of its limitations is when you're driving around town. This motorcycle is not comfortable around town. You're gearing up and down through the gearbox constantly, and below 4,000 RPM, this engine has absolutely no torque, no power. It just wants to cut out. It feels totally uncomfortable. Engine just feels like an asthmatic, basically. So you have to be revving the engine above 4,000 RPM to get the best out of this motorcycle. So let's start it up and let's take it out on the road. Its one drawback, well, it probably has a couple of drawbacks, but one of its major drawbacks is that it is just the sound. I hate the sound of this engine, or this exhaust in particular. And if you try to replace the exhaust, you have to be careful, because it is so loud without the exhaust. It will actually deafen you in a couple of minutes. It's insanely loud. But again, you could get a good quality exhaust with a good baffle and you could improve things, but you can only improve it so much. This does not sound like a good motorcycle. It actually sounds weird, the sound. It doesn't match up to the way this motorcycle looks. It just took me so long to get used to it. I'm still not used to it. But apart from that, if it just sounded better, this would be a bike that I would consider keeping long term. The maintenance costs are going to be quite low because it's a single cylinder, so there's probably 1-2 spark plugs at most. I think it stores maybe a litre of oil. It's something around a litre. So an oil change is going to be a lot cheaper than other bigger cc motorcycles. When it comes to changing brake pads, you're only going to be changing the brake pads on one front caliper. And these engines are meant to be super reliable. A lot of people, when I bought the motorcycle, were saying, why'd you buy a 250cc motorcycle? You're going to be revving the engine and destroying it, and it's not going to last long. Well, these engines are designed by Kawasaki to be revved. They know that people are going to ride them hard. It's a little racer. To get the most out of it, you have to rev it hard, put it up into the high rev range, and these motorcycles are designed for that. They're designed for that little bit of a punishment. on the 250R from which these 250 SLs were derived. There is owners who are putting 100,000 miles on their Ninja 250Rs. So the 250 SL, you can expect something similar, possibly a little bit better. One improvement that they have made on the 250 SL is they have put in lightweight pistons and low friction piston rings. So, you know, that's pretty good technology to be putting into a little 250 motorcycle, and it means that the engine is going to last a lot longer. There's good engine braking on this motorcycle. When you come off the throttle, the engine braking just slows the bike straight down. The suspension at the rear is adjustable. When you buy the motorcycle, you will want to be careful and just check that it comes with the tool set, because in the tool set there is two little pin spanners, one for adjusting the rear suspension one way and another spanner for adjusting it back in the opposite direction. So you need those two pin spanners because they're different sizes. It's a little quirky thing about these 250 SLs. I haven't adjusted the rear suspension on this motorcycle. I find it perfectly fine. It's firm enough for racing on back roads, but it's also quite soft, or it's able to deal with bumps in the road really well. I really like it. This motorcycle is super steady as well. It's just, when you're really pushing this bike hard, it's a really stable platform. You don't feel the back wheel sliding all over the road. It just feels grounded. I've ridden this bike in torrential rain at 100 kilometers an hour in the middle of the night on a motorway, and you know, that's really slippery, dangerous conditions for riding a motorcycle. This motorcycle dealt with it perfectly. It never felt it sliding at all. The rear wheel never felt like it was slipping around in the rain, in the slippy, wet roads. It was just perfect. So this is a really stable, really good motorcycle. The tires that they have fitted to the front and the rear are Dunlops, but they're higher quality tires than what you'll find on some of the competition. They're not cheap tires. These are really good quality tires, and they probably contribute to that stable platform that I've just described. So let's go and get this motorcycle started up, and you can just hear what it's like. Take it for a test ride.